Good morning and welcome. Thanks for getting up so early. I'm Kim Edwards and Cece Snyder is over to my left. Cece, raise your hand. So together we have put together this program for you, so we really appreciate you getting up early and finding the room. I'm sure it was kind of like an adventure. So we are going to be talking about the gamer. And it's basically been developed, this session has been developed from a concept. So I want to share that concept with you. So based on our research, the gamers are looking for a competitive edge. Whether the gamer is playing for the love of the game, or whether that gamer is actually trying to play competitively to make it into the big leagues. We believe that the presentation that you're going to hear about today and the ingredients that you'll learn more about are going to help give this gamer a competitive edge. So the session we have lined up for you is first it'll be Diane Ray, and I'll bring up an agenda here for you so that you can follow. But Diane will be speaking about who is the gamer, more of the attitude and usage information. And then we will have, you'll learn more about how to market to the gamer. And then you're going to learn about 2 plant-based ingredients that provide eye and brain benefits. And you can see on the screen here that these are the claims that this concept is based on, and the presentation will follow. Neumentix, both of these ingredients, again, are plant-based, natural, botanicals. The first one is Neumentix. That's where we get our focus claims and our claims related from a cognitive ingredient that has impact on reaction performance. So Paul will share a little bit more about that. That is a patented spearmint plant that's grown here in the USA. And then we will have Brenda come up and talk about the FloraGLO Lutein. And as the gold standard for lutein in the market, you can see all of us are wearing our FloraGLO Lutein yellow today. So should you have any questions, you can contact any one of us. But FloraGLO Lutein, you will learn a little bit more about some of the newer brain benefits as it relates to the gamer, as well as the blue light or digital device protection that FloraGLO Lutein can provide us. So when we look at the gamers, this industry is over $138 billion globally. Now that's all aspects of the industry. And of gamers who take supplements, there's 80% of gamers are actually taking supplements, and they supplement 5 times per week, and that's based on Chemin research. You'll hear a little bit more about this type of information from Diane. So I've shared a little bit about our path today of the conversation. Each presenter will be presenting for about 15 minutes, so we're trying to jam-pack it in to get you as much information as possible. I am going to introduce our first presenter, Diane Ray. Diane, if you could come on up. Diane is the Vice President of Strategic Innovation with NMI. We've worked with NMI on several attitude and usage surveys in the past. And Diane is going to share a little bit more about the gamer and what does that gamer look like as you look to formulate and bring markets or ingredients or products to the market for the gamer. So thanks, Diane. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm one of those people who is like this at 4 o'clock in the morning when I'm on the West Coast because I come from the East Coast. Like I'm wide awake, ready to go, and I don't even have coffee. So when they say, worry about the time, like, no problem. We just zoom right through. If I'm speaking too quickly, just raise your hand and say, slow down. Be happy to do that. Quick show of hands, how many of you have a game on your telephone that you play at some point, usually in the airport after you've done all your work and you're just hanging out waiting for that flight? You see people popping over on the games. How many of you have a game on have you ever played an RPG? Oh, so many, very good. And that is not a rocket-propelled grenade for those of you who are from my generation. That is a role-playing game where you are, you did not know that. So for the most part, most of you here in this audience are not the target consumer for this, right? And that's something that you have to really wrap your head around because you keep thinking, what would I like in the market? And you are not representative of this audience at all. 2 seconds on NMI. We are a research firm that specializes in consumer market research. We specialize in health and wellness, sustainability, healthy aging. And we work with our own global trended data. We run our own surveys in multiple countries. And earlier this year, we completed a 13-country supplement study, which I'd be happy to talk to you about later on. We use that data as a jumping off point for for marketing, market research, product development, all kinds of full service market research types of products. And we have done work in over 30 countries. So feel free to ask questions at the end. Happy to talk about what we do later on. For this conversation today, we're pulling the data from our Supplement OTC RX study. And this study is US based. It's been run, you see all the years in there, right, from 2005, every couple years up until last year. We've been doing it every year because the market's changing that dynamically and there's a lot of demand. So we talk about all kinds of products, health conditions. We do a general population study, so you're able to kind of slice and dice that data by all kinds of different dimensions. But that's the source of most of the data for today. We're going to talk a little bit about who are the gamers. We're going to talk about what are some of the health issues associated with gaming, because you don't always consider that when you're thinking about gaming. You think about food and beverages to keep them moving, but there's a lot of physiological issues related to gamers. Talk about how that supplement fits in with that target audience, and then we'll do the Q&A at the end. So a quick look. People talk about players, electronic athletes, e-athletes, right? That's how they call themselves. In my day, when someone said you're a player, that was a whole different thing, right? And it was not a compliment necessarily. I see some looks in the back. People who are former players, I'm sure. About half of the population does not play games at all in this context. You've got about 40% that play video games, but would not be called a gamer. All right, and like that would be me. I do play all these games with my kids because it's a way to connect. I play games, I do play some other role-playing games, but in a very limited capacity. I'm not a gamer by any stretch of the imagination. I don't live and breathe it. I mean, my son, again, on Friday nights, he's like, oh, my game starts at this time. Gotta get through dinner quickly because I have to connect with all my buddies around the country who get on and play their games. And this market, as Kim had said, is $139 billion in revenue and expected to grow about 10% a year. So this is not chicken feed, right? This is a big opportunity for a lot of people. If we think about who these people are, right? If you think about where do you fall on this, and you might want to think about where you placed yourself, right? Are you brand new to gaming, just getting started, getting your first console? Are you a casual gamer? Casual gamers skew older and female, like that's me, right, in that group. Core gamer, so you're enthusiast, but you're not super competitive. I would put like my son and his friends in that area. Like they don't go for the money, they don't have to play every single second, but they're watching all the game reviews, they look at the game review magazines, they know when the next version is coming out, they read all the reviews, oh, this game sucks, I'm not gonna buy that one. And they save their money to buy whatever the new biggest game is that's coming out. You've got your hardcore gamer, they're very engaged, they spend a lot of time playing this. And then your professional gamer, and yes, there are people who earn a living playing computer games. So who are they? We know that gamers skew younger, of course, true gamers. About 40% are under age 36, 18% are older, but that red box there kind of covers up the millennials. And when we think about millennials, today people still think of millennials as 20-somethings. The leading edge millennials are 41 or 42 years old. Right, so if you think about that red box, that is the largest proportion of gamers. So we're going to kind of focus on millennials as a target going forward. When you look at millennials' health and wellness attitudes, they're health strivers. They want to be healthier. They're not at that pinnacle of people who really keep themselves initially in peak condition. They're always working to get better. They tend to be a little bit price sensitive. They've got a lot of other things going on and competing for their pocketbook, so you have to be affordable to that group. And they do respond to things that have a lot of education. They want to know more. They want to be informed when they're making a decision going forward. So gamers have not been overlooked by a lot of industries. There's a lot of people going after this particular market. So you've got everything that's designed to improve the gaming condition, right? You've got the better chairs, better for your back. You've got the custom grip mouse. You've got all kinds of specialty products geared for the gaming industry. When you look at peripheral products, I would say, people who appeal to the culture but aren't really targeted for gaming performance per se, right? You've got everything in here from shampoo and conditioner kinds of products, right, to shaving products that all really go after that particular target. When you look at supplements, you've got all kinds of supplements already out there that really appeal to this group. Insane Focus. The product, when I looked at that, I had to laugh. It comes in grape flavor. When is the last time you saw any product launch with grape flavor, right? Because that's for like 8 and under, but they launched grape flavor for this particular target. Energy and focus. The Euro gamer, because everybody thinks that people from other countries perhaps are better at gaming than people here. There's an appeal. Pro gamer complex. And even Mountain Dew is into the mix. All right, so lots of products targeted to this particular audience. And do you think they don't buy it? Absolutely they do. Right? If we look at think about millennials and how they feel about health and wellness. Right, so consumers who believe that they can manage their health by taking supplements and vitamins, you've got that millennial and Gen X group very high. So your target audience is already a believer in supplements. That same target audience has a lot of appeal because they're increasing their use of supplements. Right, so millennials start out with a multivite, when they're in their 20s, they begin to add more. We know that healthy aging starts in consideration about age 27, so people start actually paying attention. I think that was, when I first heard that number a few years ago, I was like, really? But we have done all the research, and that's when people start to trigger that I need to be doing something differently. So people who have increased their usage, we see those millennials have now moved from 1 supplement a day, I think they're up to maybe 3.5 on average per day now, and that's a considerable volume increase. So what are some of the side effects of gaming? I would just say isolation, but we don't really deal with that in this particular thing. I know the 2 20-year-old boys who live at my house, once a month, I'm like, you've got to open the windows, air out those rooms, please, please, please. But vision is a key piece, eye strain, right? Blurred vision, the dizziness, right? There's a lot of concentration, a lot of blue light effects. And you're focusing, because these are very nuanced games if you're at that level of gaming. You've got all the cognitive skills. How do you stay sharp, right? For the professional gamer, certainly this is their full-time, that fractional down who might be just making some side money, right? You've got to stay focused. You've got a lot on your plate. You've got to know how to win, and you've got to know how to win consistently, especially if you're using this as a big income source. Concentration, creativity, right? You have to think about the muscle and skeletal impacts, right? There's always a lot of, you get tense, even playing like the small games I do, and you're done, like your grip on that joystick or your grip on that mouse, it's like, ooh, I got to stretch out those muscles in my hands. So you've got hands, wrists, back, neck, shoulders. All of these are super important to people who are gaming on a regular basis. And certainly energy and endurance. Have anybody been to one of these like Comic-Con or GameCon kind of events? No? A couple? I've been to several. In fact, I make costumes for kids who want to go because it's a lot of fun. It's a way to engage with my children on different things. So when they're off playing their competitive games, I'm in like the board game room, right, playing with the old people in the other side, but they go forever. They'll go 24 hours in a row and play these games, and they'll go with as little sleep as possible to keep going because the competition is what drives them. So fatigue and stress, but they do know that at some point they've got to rejuvenate because you're losing coordination, you're losing reaction speed. And they're pretty clear on, oops, I'm not at my peak. I need to up my game, so to speak, right, and get back on the top of my game. When you look at some of the science that's been developed around these issues, right? eSport athletes can get 400 movements, keyboards per minute, right? That's a lot. Right? If you think about how many you're doing, if you track those, I'm way, 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 way down that list, right? But they're fast. They're incredibly fast. And using both hands at the same time, and then coordinating, hand-eye coordination between all of that. And thinking creatively, as you know, for people who are gamers. Right, you've got lots of left brain, right brain, different pieces of your brain are being stimulated simultaneously. You want all those to be working at their peak condition. So the strains are very similar. Doctors are saying they now see a lot more like carpal tunnel syndrome. They see other strains in neck and back. People engage their whole body in gaming when they're doing it on a full-time basis. So lots of strain, similar to what you see in other athletes. And as we talked before, hand-eye coordination is super, super important. And people know what to do. You see these guys kind of amping up on caffeine, and they realize I'm losing, actually, hand-eye coordination if I'm too jittery. So they've got to find that balance of what's going to be good to keep all my senses working well, but not being overstimulated. Millennials, and here's where the opportunity is pretty apparent. Millennials say on the left, I'm highly concerned about managing these conditions. Mental focus and concentration, blue light, lack of energy, and joint pain and stiffness. On the right, we see how many of them say, I'm actually doing something to manage that, right? And that spread is a big gap. That spread is where the opportunity space really lies. Just let you soak that in for a second. And if you look at the red, that red is a very high index versus the Gen Pop. So they're much more concerned than the general population in managing those particular conditions. So we look at, we ask a question in all of our surveys, how likely are you to take a supplement if it's proven to be effective to manage these specific conditions? So millennials are like, heck yes, I'll take a supplement for concentration and focus. I'll certainly take a supplement for blue light issues. Those are big opportunities. I mean, energy is so ubiquitous that every generation wants more energy. So while it's important here, it's also important across a broader group. Millennials are concerned about joint pain and stiffness, right? And you would think, like, what the heck? You don't hit that until, 40-something usually, when you start to feel those aches and pains. But millennials are feeling that, and keeping in mind those leading edge millennials are in their early 40s. So if we talk about forms, this is not specifically millennials who are gamers. What form do they want their supplements in? So please don't take it to that level of finiteness. But millennials are at 49%, top 2 box agreement that they want to get supplements in something other than pills and capsules. All right, it doesn't mean they won't take it in a pill and capsule, but it means that new form can be a little lighter. It can just make the difference in kind of market attractiveness for them. It can make you stand out just a tiny bit. What we find is people who are taking 1 or 2 supplements a day, a pill and tablet's great. People who start taking more, and when you get to that point where you're taking 6 or 7 and you have to go to the pill box, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's a threshold. And when you cross that line, it's like, ooh, now it becomes medicine, and now I'm old or I'm sick, and there's a mental problem there. But if I can keep a bottle of gummies on my desk and just pop a gummy, I don't think that I'm taking a medicine. So it's not that that's the specific answer, but keep that in mind as you're developing products moving forward. So just a quick summary, right? The gaming market is big and is growing. So there is opportunity space here. Gamers and millennials, they do split pretty much evenly by gender. So don't think that this is just a guy's market. Keep that in mind as you're moving ahead with who your target audience is. There's a lot of health issues. You've got the whole mental, physical skill connection that's super important going forward. And they're highly engaged consumers. This is a target that's going to be pretty quick on the uptake for new products. So thank you. Hand it back to Kim.
Thank you, Diane, for sharing a little bit more about who that gamer is. Hopefully that gave you some ideas to start thinking about. The next presenter I'm going to be bringing up is Paul Falcone. He is our Senior Research Clinical Associate. He is also formerly from Muscle Farm Sports Science Institute. And the reason that I wanted to share that is when he was at Muscle Farm, he actually conducted the study that he's going to share a little bit more about with you on Neumentix and how it benefits the gamer. So Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim, and thank you everyone for coming today. What we'll be talking about today is focus and reaction time, and how Neumentix connects mental and physical performance for gaming. So first, we'll start with focus and reaction time, and what that means for gamers and for eSports athletes. Then we'll move on to Neumentix, which is Kemen's natural plant-based spearmint extract grown in the United States with demonstrated cognitive benefits from multiple studies. Then we'll move on and talk about one such study that, as Kim mentioned, I ran at the Muscle Farm Sports Science Institute called the Makoto study. So eSports. eSports is elite level competitive video gaming. And there's an enormous opportunity here where dozens of games are being played by professional athletes in stadiums like this, and these stadiums are being filled. And so there's a lot of opportunity there, and in our industry we think about how can we improve the performance of these athletes. Now, focus and reaction time are two cognitive domains that are essential for gaming. And as we've already seen from Diane's great talk, these are popular call-outs on many supplements for gamers in the market today, regardless of whether it's a drink, a powder, a tablet, or a capsule format. Let's start with focus. Bruce Lee said that the successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. And these modern-day warriors in the virtual sphere, focus is essential. And not just focus, but really sustained focus. Because a lot of these esports athletes are training 12 to 14 hours a day on their game, with few to no breaks. So prolonged focus is so critical with these continued hours of play. And if you think about, a lot of gamers will play late at night into the wee hours of the morning, and some supplements may disrupt sleep patterns and may not be ideal for that type of late night gaming. Let's move on to reaction time. What is reaction time? It is quickness to respond. And in esports, typically what you're responding to is another person, either a team versus team, or one-on-one. You're playing against people who know the game as well as you, play as well as you, are at the highest levels. And any sort of improvement or edge that you can get is going to mean the difference between winning and losing. However, even in more conventional games, there are a variety of stimuli that need to be responded to, whether it's the big bosses at the end of Super Mario Brothers, or whether it is in a game like Candy Crush pictured here, or Tetris, where the game environment itself is your opponent, and the faster that you can respond, the higher scores and the greater levels you can achieve. This brings us to Neumentix. Now, Neumentix is a purpose-grown spearmint, purpose being high polyphenol content. And it's really the phenolic complex that makes Neumentix so unique, with over 50 phenolic compounds, including rosmarinic, salvionolic, lithospermic, and caphtoric acids, and rosmarinic being the most abundant. But not only are the patented strains of spearmint grown here in the US so important for the high polyphenol content of Neumentix, but then also the water extraction process, which really pulls out those power polyphenols in a very clean process. It maximizes these polyphenols that we're looking for while minimizing a lot of these compounds that are found in oil extracts, which might be fine for spearmint flavor, but when you're looking for health and cognitive benefits, our patented water extraction process and high polyphenol content are critical. So let's talk about some science. We have 12 studies demonstrating the safety and efficacy of Neumentix, preclinical and mechanism of action studies, and then 4 human clinical trials. And I would like to focus on this one that was run at the Muscle Farm Sports Science Institute called the Makoto study. So with the Makoto study, it is a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial where we took 142 men and women, young and healthy, and randomized them to 2 groups, placebo and 900 milligrams of Neumentix for 90 days. We brought them in for a screening and test familiarization, which is so important in cognitive testing because learning effect is such a huge issue with a lot of cognitive testing. So we familiarized them with the tests. We then brought them back in for a baseline visit, and then supplemented them for 90 days. During that time, we brought them back in at day 7, day 30, and day 90 for post-supplementation testing at a short, mid, and then longer-term time point. The outcomes that we looked at cognitive performance testing, which we'll be talking about focus today, using the CNS Vital Signs cognitive test battery. We utilized physical performance testing, which we'll talk about reaction time, utilizing the Makoto Arena 2 system, hence the Makoto study name, and then a safety panel utilizing various blood biomarkers, vital signs, and then adverse event reporting. If we look at our subject demographics here, we see that the age range is around 27 years old for both groups on average. So this is right in the middle of that 18 to 35 demographic that Diane pointed out is so important for gamers, but especially esports athletes who start quite young. As far as age, race, gender, and BMI are concerned, both groups are very well matched. So let's talk about cognitive performance. We utilize the CNS Vital Signs computerized test battery. It consists of 8 widely used neurocognitive tests, and alternate forms were used, making it ideal for repeated testing, which, as I said, is so important because a learning effect is such an issue. So you really want different types of tests so your subjects aren't seeing the exact same test when you're doing repeated testing. The CNS Vital Signs is well validated in over 50 clinical trials. And the domain that we'll be talking about when talking about focus or sustained focus, CNS Vital Signs refers to as sustained attention. And the sustained attention domain is made up of 3 sections of the 4-part continuous performance test, part 2, 3, 4 aggregated together. And I'll just run through the test here real quick. Part 1, you respond to any stimulus, doesn't matter the shape or color, something comes up, you hit the space bar, positive response. Part 2, you respond only to one of these, in this case the red triangle, so there's some choice involved. Part 3, you respond to any 2 that are the same in a row, so green circle, second green circle, space bar, positive response. And then part 4, you respond to 2 of the same separated by 1. So blue square, red triangle, blue square, that second blue square, you press the spacebar, positive response. Now this is much more complicated as you go through these parts, because with that part 4, you really have to keep the last 2 shapes and colors in your mind the whole time that you're doing that study. And I think that by combining these 3, you have this increasing complexity in your domain score that really applies well to the complexity of the game environment. So let's look at our results. Along the x-axis, we see time or day, and we see points at 0, day 7, day 30, and day 90. And then on the y-axis is change from baseline for the sustained attention composite with Neumentix in orange and placebo in blue. First thing I'd like to point out is that the placebo stays around that 0 time point, so we're not seeing a huge learning effect here. And as we can see at day 7 Neumentix, there is a numerical improvement, and that improvement becomes significant at day 30, and that significance is maintained at day 90. So quite a robust response. Now what does this mean? What does this mean for esports athletes and for conventional gamers? Well, in the data I just showed you, sustained attention improved by 11% after 90 days compared to baseline, versus the placebo 0.9%. And for esports, long hours of continued gameplay make this sustained attention so important, both in training and competition. But importantly, sustained attention did continue to improve over time. It's not just a quick fix. And for our esports athletes, this becomes really important because for them, this is a career. This isn't something where they need improvements in hours or days. They need it in months and years. So let's move on to reaction performance. So here is the Makoto Arena device, and it is an innovative tool that provides a game-like atmosphere. It is commonly used as an exergame or as a training device among many sports teams, professional sports teams, the Olympics, and a variety of rehab facilities. But we have utilized it, and several other labs as well, as a testing device. So you have audiovisual stimuli in 360 degrees, 3 towers, each with 16 targets, 12 on each tower and 4 foot plates. And the tests that we'll be talking about are the stationary or one tower test, where you're planted in front of one tower using your hands and feet as the panels light up, but not a lot of lateral or multi-directional movement. And then the multi-directional test, pictured here, where you're constantly moving around 360 degrees of stimuli. The variables that we measured are hits over the 30-second test and then average reaction time. here are our results. At the top is the 1-tower test, hits on the left, reaction time on the right, and then the 3-tower test below. And in the 1-tower or stationary test, we see statistical improvements at day 30, and those significant improvements are maintained at the day 90 time point with the Neumentix over placebo. If we look at reaction time, and I like to point out that lower reaction time is better because we want to be faster, so fewer seconds, we see benefits as early as day 7 and then also at day 90. Similarly, with the multi-directional test, we have significant improvements at day 30, and those improvements are maintained at day 90. And then the reaction time at day 7 and at day 30. So how do these findings compare to the body of literature? Well, because the Makoto device is an innovative tool, there aren't a lot of studies that we can really look to compare it to. But there is one study where they took a popular pre-workout with caffeine and various amino acids and supplemented it acutely and found similar benefits numerically. Now, of course, acute supplementation and our 90-day supplementation are not the same thing. And importantly, our study is the first study to show chronic supplementation and cognitive improvements in using a reactive performance device like the Makoto. And this becomes important for esports athletes because we have utilized a game-like atmosphere, and it's not just the cognitive domains that you want to look at, but certainly the tests that are involved and how much do they apply to the individuals and what their needs are. And by using this game-like atmosphere, I feel that our findings with reaction performance really apply well to gamers and esports athletes. Also, the physical performance benefits that we saw with the multi-directional test apply really well to virtual reality. Now, I'm old-fashioned when it comes to gaming. I grew up on Atari, Nintendo. I think about using a joystick or using a controller. So for me, this seems very futuristic. But the future is now, where the VR League is in Season 3 already, and with games like Echo Arena and Onward, we see a lot of growth in this area, and the physical demands for these esports athletes and gamers is going to continue to grow as well. So in conclusion, 900 milligrams of Neumentix improves sustained attention as early as 30 days and maintain this improvement after 3 months of supplementation. And it also improved reaction performance in both the stationary and multi-directional tests following 30 days of supplementation, with effects still present at 90 days in young, healthy individuals. Thank you very much. I look forward to your questions at the end.
Thank you, Paul. So Neumentix is an exciting ingredient, as he mentioned, that is perfect for the gamer in relation to sustained attention, focus, and reaction performance. So our next presenter is Brenda Fonseca. Brenda will be talking about FloraGLO Lutein and the eye as well as brain benefits as it relates to the gamer. FloraGLO Lutein, as I've mentioned before, is the gold standard of lutein with over 90 publications. And Brenda is also our resident neuroscientist, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brenda to share a little bit more about FloraGLO Lutein.
Hello, I'm really glad to be here. As Kim said, I'm Brenda Fonseca. I'm a Senior Technical Service Manager at Kimmin Human Nutrition and Health. And today I want to talk to you about FloraGLO Lutein and how it relates to the gamer opportunity. So I think you're getting a really good mix here of information, and I hope you have a lot that you take away from all these talks. As you know, and as has been mentioned in some of the previous talks, the gamers have some very specific challenges. So some of the things that they need to deal with are blue light exposure. We saw that that is a primary concern among millennials, among gamers. They also have to deal with glare. They need to deal with visual processing requirements as they're playing these games and having to keep track of all this visual information, as well as memory demands. And so now as you're putting together ingredients, thinking about how can you provide a supplement that maybe helps these individuals with these types of demands, you want to get an ingredient that can address as many of these concerns as possible. And that's really where FloraGLO Lutein comes in. So FloraGLO Lutein is the gold standard of lutein. We not only are the most researched lutein brand worldwide, we have over 90 human clinical publications with FloraGLO. We're also the blue light brand. We're the author of a patent showing how lutein filters blue light. And we're safe across the lifespan, which actually is a very unique attribute for a cognitive health ingredient. So we are the only lutein brand that's been GRAS approved for infant nutrition formula. So I'll come back to these and talk about these, but I just wanted to give you that already overall idea of what FloraGLO Lutein is. Now, if you're not familiar with FloraGLO Lutein, let me step back for a second and explain what lutein is. Lutein is a carotenoid found in all those yummy vegetables we all like to eat, like kale and spinach, so the dark green leafy vegetables, corn, avocado, eggs. It actually is not something that we produce in our bodies. So if we're going to get lutein, we must get it from the diet or we must get it from supplementation. And actually, FloraGLO Lutein is in the same form as what's found in food. Typically, lutein and zeaxanthin are found in a ratio of 5 to 1. And they're deposited in various areas in the body. In particular, we're going to focus on the eye and the brain. So here we have a schematic of a little eyeball. Here's the front of the eyeball, there's the back. You see here, back here, that yellow is actually the lutein and zeaxanthin. So it's a plant-based pigment, actually yellow in color, and you can actually see that yellow pigment in the retina of the eye. And that makes it very unique as an ingredient because we have a way to measure that. So let me go to the next slide here. We kind of flipped the eyeball around. So here's your eye, light's coming in there. Here's your lutein and zeaxanthin. This is actually a photo micrograph of the retina, and you can actually see the yellow of the lutein and zeaxanthin is actually present in the back of the eye. That yellow is called macular pigment. It's made up of these macular carotenoids, lutein and zeaxanthin, and it serves a very important role. For one, it protects the back of your eye, the photoreceptors, from blue light. Second, it plays a tremendous role in some visual processing like contrast sensitivity, glare recovery, photo stress recovery, and we know that the level that's found in the eye is actually related to the amount of lutein in your brain. And so there's actually a non-invasive way to find out how much lutein you have in the back of your eye. It's called macular pigment optical density testing, or MPOD, and you get a score from 0 all the way up to a little over 1 if you really are eating all your spinach. And you can actually test that. We actually have 2 devices here at the show, so I really encourage you to come by. We're at booth 4023 and get your MPOD values tested. You look through a little viewfinder. It takes about 2 minutes, doesn't hurt at all, non-invasive. Click a little clicker and you can see where you are. You might be quite surprised. Maybe everyone, we always think the best of ourselves, so everyone might think they're up here. The average in the US is closer to a 0.2. Down here. If you look at our diet, that makes sense. Here is the average intake from the diet of lutein and zeaxanthin for Americans. You can find your age group down here, so somewhere probably in one of these groups here. The blue represents the average intake of lutein. The orange represents the average intake of zeaxanthin. This is what most of us are eating. Here's where we should be based on the clinical science. The recommended dosage of lutein and zeaxanthin a day is 10 milligrams of lutein and 2 milligrams of zeaxanthin. So most of us are not getting it from the diet. So as I said, come by. People are always surprised. It's very interesting. We have people come every year and get retested. We're in booth 4023, so that's one very interesting thing to look at. So why it matters, why do we care about how much lutein we have? Well, today I want to talk about 3 functions that really are related to the gamer opportunity. So the amount of FloraGLO Lutein, the amount of lutein you have in your body helps you protect, process, and perform. So we're talking about blue light protection. I'm going to start and just let you know a little bit of the science behind that. Talk about visual processing, and then talk about cognitive performance. All 3 of these things are essential for the gamer, the casual gamer all the way up to the e-athlete that's performing and gaming 12 to 14 hours a day. So let's start here with blue light protection and what we know about lutein and how that protects our eye. So we all have a lot of devices going on. We're getting actually exposed to a tremendous amount of blue light. If you look at this graph here, it shows you the spectrum that's being emitted from some devices. And in here is the blue light wavelength. And what you see is the devices, especially that gamers like, so smartphones and video games, emit a tremendous amount of blue light. Not very many people are using their cathode ray TV sets anymore, so they're not getting that low amount of blue light. We're all getting exposed to a ton of blue light. Long-term effects include retinal damage, poor glare recovery, reduced visual performance, and age-related eye conditions. So it's not good. I think there's a growing consumer awareness that this is not good to be exposed to this blue light. The blue light comes into our eye, goes to the back, and can damage the retina. So where does lutein come into play? Well, actually, lutein and zeaxanthin are deposited at a very special place in the retina. So this is a picture of your retina, so a little subsection here. You can see the light is coming in. The lutein and zeaxanthin are actually deposited right before the photoreceptors, especially in the most sensitive area of the eye where we have the highest visual acuity. So here you see rods and cones, and the lutein and zeaxanthin are deposited right there. The amount of yellow that's right there directly corresponds to how much blue light will be absorbed and how much will actually protect those photoreceptors. So critical amount that needs to be there, and that really has to come from diet or supplementation. All blue light is not bad. You know, some people try and wear like yellow glasses and other ways to filter it out, but we do want some blue light coming in. So actually these cells right here are called IPRGCs, or intrinsic photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, and they actually respond to blue light to help reset our circadian cycles. So we want some blue light coming in, so we don't want to necessarily filter it with sunglasses. We want lutein and zeaxanthin to do their job in the back of the eye. All right, so we got the blue light protection, clearly something that's critical, clearly something that lutein is very well developed to help us naturally protect our eyes from blue light. What about visual processing? So these are things like glare recovery, photo stress recovery. So when your flash of light flashes in front of your eye, how long does it take you to see? Headlights at night, how long does it take you to recover from that? Contrast sensitivity, as well as just simple visual processing speeds. We have science on FloraGLO Lutein for all of these outcomes, showing that when you supplement with FloraGLO Lutein, you have improvements in these areas of visual processing. So I picked 3 studies to show you. These are studies that have been done specifically with supplementing with FloraGLO Lutein. The studies supplemented for either 6 months up to a year. The study sizes were everywhere from 34 up to 109 subjects, and they supplemented with 10 milligrams of FloraGLO Lutein and 2 milligrams of OptiSharp zeaxanthin. And we looked at different areas of photo visual processing, so contrast sensitivity, which is, I'll show you an example of, photo stress recovery, which is your ability to recover from those flashes of light. If you think about gaming and everything that's going on with the lights, it's how well can your eyes recover from that, and then glare disability. So they all found significant improvements in these areas with supplementation. And just to give you, how does this relate then to my real life world? Let's look at contrast sensitivity. Again, statistically significant benefits in several of the studies, and also clinically relevant benefits. And so when we talk about contrast sensitivity, what we're talking about is your ability to distinguish object from a background. So you're out on the golf course, you hit the ball, can you find that white ball against the blue sky? Can you guys see it there? Oh, you guys are all taking your luteins. Excellent. So there it is. If you have trouble seeing it, that's where that contrast sensitivity comes in, and you really need to be thinking about how to improve the visual processing within your eyes. These are all areas that are essential for the gamer, and really it's coming all together with supplementation with FloraGLO Lutein. Finally, the area of research that's extremely exciting, I'd say a newer area of research that we're extremely excited about, is the idea of cognitive performance. So as you may or may not realize, the eye is actually an extension of the brain. So the retina actually develops from the same neural tube as the brain. It's full of neurons, which the brain is also full of neurons. So the fact that we know so much of how lutein benefits the eye, it makes sense that we're now finding out the lutein benefits the brain. So we know that lutein is found in the brain. Not only is it found in the brain, it's actually the major carotenoid in the brain. It's found in the brain all the way from infancy up to centenarians. So we know it's found across the lifespan. And it's found in the brain in higher concentrations than what we see in our diet or what we see in our blood levels or our serum levels. And that's super significant, because what that means is that our body is actually actively transporting lutein from our blood into our brain. So we know if our body is going to be spending that much energy to get that molecule or get that nutrient into our brain, it must be doing something important. So we are very excited, very exciting, and kind of hot topics of research right now is the role of lutein in cognitive performance and brain health. FloraGLO Lutein actually currently has 8 clinical publications looking at specifically when you give a healthy adult FloraGLO Lutein, what happens to cognitive function, what happens to brain performance. We, again, are the most researched brand. We definitely have the most science on the role of lutein in the brain. So I wanted to just pick, someone's got a phone call. I wanted to just pick one of these studies. If this is something that's interesting to you, come by our booth, meet with a team member, and we are happy to dive into these details. We're very excited about the science. We have a lot of insights to share from this science. I just picked one study I thought was going to be relevant, and that was a study that was conducted by Dr. Lisa Rinsey-Hammond from the University of Georgia. This is in young, healthy adults. So these are individuals at the peak of their cognitive performance. She did a randomized, double-blind, controlled study. She supplemented for 1 year. So individuals either took 10 milligrams of FloraGLO Lutein or 2 milligrams of OptiSharp zeaxanthin, or they took placebo. And she looked at serum levels of lutein and zeaxanthin, she looked at MPOD levels, and she looked at cognitive outcomes. She used actually the same test battery that Paul talked about, CNS vital signs, very well validated, computerized cognitive test battery. And what she found was extremely exciting. So she found that not only did serum levels increase, not only did MPOD values increase, but she found significant improvements in cognitive performance. And again, remember, these are individuals, really our cognitive performance peaks in our 20s. So these are at the top of their game. And she found that the individuals that were supplementing with FloraGLO Lutein showed significantly increased performance in a spatial memory task. So that's your ability to remember where things are visually in space and recall that. And you can see here, these are the individuals that took the lutein and zeaxanthin, and these are individuals who are supplemented with the placebo. She also looked at individuals who showed MPOD, significant MPOD increases, and found additional cognitive benefits with complex attention and reasoning ability. So incredibly exciting study. All of these have been published and are available, and we're very happy to collaborate with as many researchers as possible as they start to pursue what's the role of lutein in the brain and cognitive performance. One last study I'll share with you is we know that people are starting gaming earlier and earlier, right? So what's the role of lutein in children? What do we know about how levels of lutein correspond to cognitive performance and how that might relate to the gamer opportunity? As I said, FloraGLO Lutein is an ideal ingredient for younger kids because of our safety. So this was a study from Dr. Naman Khan's lab at the University of Illinois. And what they did is they took 40 children between the ages of 7 and 10. They measured their lutein levels by using that MPOD device, so non-invasive, pretty simple way to measure lutein. And then they did a test called relational memory. This is a test that relies on your hippocampus, an area of your brain that's extremely important for learning and memory. It's sensitive to nutrient interventions, and it's also where we grow new neurons. It's very important for development, so really critical brain area called relational memory. So you guys can take this test right now. So they saw this for 10 seconds. They were shown 5 objects. This was repeated across multiple trials. They had to memorize where those were. You guys are much smarter than 7 to 10-year-olds, so that's how much time you get. And then they were lined up like that, and then they had to put those objects back into place. So they had to put them back exactly where they saw them. So they would move them back. Again, they did repeated trials of this, really looking at binding objects with space. That's what relational memory is. So how did this individual do? Get it? Got it? Kind of. If we go back, got it, kind of, close, a little bit. There's 4 types of errors they can make. They can make edge resizing, swaps, displacement, and misplacements. So looking at all 4 of those errors, the researchers saw that all the kids that had higher levels of MPOD made significantly fewer errors across the board. So here you have all 4 of those error types. Along the x-axis is their MPOD values. So as their lutein levels went up, the number of errors that they made went down for all 4 of the errors that we looked at. So really exciting time. And just to wrap up, I'm getting the stop card here. Perfect. Is that we, again, back to FloraGLO Lutein, the most researched lutein brand. We really care about the science. We support the science. We have 8 clinical studies showing FloraGLO Lutein's impact on brain and cognitive health. Also, the Blue Light brand, we have 70 clinical studies showing that when you give FloraGLO Lutein, NPOD values increase, showing that you really can get that blue light protection. And finally, our safety profile is something that we're very proud of. The only lutein brand that's grasped for infant formula. And we have 15 clinicals on infant and maternal nutrition. So I hope you come by our booth. Definitely get the NPOD tested. We have a little contest going even. So if you think you eat a lot of spinach, maybe you'll be very high on that value. And then talk to our team members if you're interested in looking at FloraGLO Lutein and the gamer opportunity.
Great. Thanks, Brenda. Appreciate that. All right, so Justin is going to be our next speaker. Justin is the CEO and founder of Ader Company. He is responsible for a marketing eSports agency. He basically connects brands with gamers, be able to sponsor the gamers. He helps to activate campaigns that are targeted to the gamers, as well as works with key influencers in the gaming industry. So with that, Justin, come on up. Let's share a little bit more about the e-gamer and how do you market to them.
I'm the CEO of Ader. We're really fortunate to be one of the leading marketing companies for esports and gaming. I know a few of you have already released esports-focused products, and you're probably thinking, how do we capture this massive audience of gaming personalities and reach these gamers in an authentic way? And that's a challenge that a lot of companies face. My hope today is to give you guys a little bit of guidance as what the ecosystem looks like, and then you can make your own decisions moving forward. Now, we're gonna jump into a few slides here, but before we do, quick raise of hands. Who knows what Twitch is? Fantastic. Hey, Ninja's making the world famous. Okay. So primarily our service is focused on Twitch, and a lot of this presentation will look at what you can do across Twitch in the live environment. So talking about Twitch, this is their data, not mine. So I can't say it's empirical, but it seems pretty accurate. What we see right now is a massive audience of people who enjoy live content. A lot of people still watch TV. A lot of people who play video games don't at all. What they do instead is they engage with their favorite content creators live in a very direct manner. They're going to be talking to each other daily, in chat, communicating and building a real authentic relationship. And this is one of the really important advantages of Twitch, is that authentic relationship. When you guys are thinking about bringing your brands to gaming, you want to capture and capitalize on that authentic relationship. As you can see, the majority of Twitch users are male, despite the fact that actually over 40% of women are playing video games in the Gen Z audience group. When it comes to actual content consumption, it's still heavily male, and that is changing, thankfully, becoming more of an even number. And then you have a huge number of peak CCVs. These are numbers of engaged customers at once. Anyone who watches any major TV show knows that Nielsen reports on the number of viewers for the total piece of content. On Twitch, you have up to 2 million people watching gaming content at once. That's a massive number, and it competes with some of the biggest television shows out there. A little bit more about the esports fan for those of you guys who are interested or want to know about what their spending habits are, what their interests are. You'll see that 70% of them are actually interested in sports as well as gaming. A lot of people see the world as not synonymous, but in my mind, they're very similar. If you grew up playing football, you're going to enjoy watching football. If you grew up playing video games, you're going to enjoy watching video games. And 1 in 3 people are watching at least 5 hours of Fortnite content every single day. That's a huge amount of content consumption. The last time we saw content consumption similar to that was when TV first came out. And you're going to see this trend continuing, and actual watch time on Twitch has increased about 25% year over year since inception. So really engaged group of people who really love this kind of content. Here's some of the genres that are most popular. I'm not sure how relevant this is when you guys are thinking about marketing a product, but I do want to call out that based on whether or not you're focusing on things like cognitive eye function or other focuses, you will want to think about your genre. For instance, if you care about cognitive eye function, and by the way, I don't eat any kale, so I'm sure I'm going to fail that exam. Detest kale. You're going to care more about a shooter personality or console game, because those are games where reaction speed really matters. I suck at reaction speed, probably because of the kale. So I'm focused more on the real-time strategy and the puzzle game category. That's my preference because I like to take my time, think, and actually view things. These are the categories that are most popular across Twitch, and these are the categories you should be thinking about when you're targeting a particular customer. Do you care about response time? Do you care about cognitive performance or anything like that? Think about the genre that you want to reach and what the selective audience is. As a whole, the shooter category is by far the most popular, with Fortnite really dominating that category, and that's followed by the strategy category. So those are the two most popular categories. This is what Twitch looks like. Most of you are familiar and you've heard of Twitch. You may not have seen a live stream. You may not have tuned in and understood what an authentic relationship on the platform actually looks like. As you can see, you have a content creator here playing a video game, one of my favorite games, Hearthstone. It's a little bit on the down low right now. And you have a chat, and that's a group of people who are actually talking to him, and he's engaging with them on a daily and usually on a minute-by-minute basis, which is something that you're missing in traditional television. Now, what we're doing right here and what you're going to see right here is an example of a campaign that we ran for one of our investors and one of our larger partners, Disney and Fox. So they did the Deadpool promotion through us. So they really were looking to drive a lot of authentic engagement for a product that targets an older millennial male, Deadpool. One of their biggest challenges, though, was that they had to keep the content rated PG-13 because they were promoting across Fortnite, which has a younger audience. You have a lot of COBO compliance issues. So they came to us and said, look, we want to have a really effective campaign that's going to be authentic, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to reach a lot of engaged customers. And this was the plan that we put together for them. So you can see, this was more of a traditional media buy. You have your profile banner. This is an ad block proof banner that anyone can click on to buy your product. You have a stream overlay right here. That is an overlay that pops up whenever someone donates money or subscribes and engages with the content in that financial manner. And then, more importantly, you had these chat emotes. If you guys have seen Deadpool, you know that there's Peter, the only superhero without any powers, and he goes skydiving. When you jump out of a plane in Fortnite, you also go skydiving. In Fortnite, it's a massive bus, not a plane, but the concept kind of follows through. So anytime someone would jump out and start their game in Fortnite, we would have the chat spam the Peter emote. And this way, we were able to not just engage the chat through a promotion, but really get them excited about the promotion. We actually made this emote one of the most popular emotes on Twitch for a full month because people were super excited to engage with a content creator jumping out of a plane, and they associated with and connected with the Peter experience. So that's an example of a very high-level campaign for a major brand in the ecosystem that really authentically engaged an audience. Now, YouTube is another big part of the gaming culture. A lot of people think about Twitch when they think about gaming. Certainly a lot of you guys do. But YouTube is an evergreen platform for people who care about content that's going to live for a while. When you're building out your brand and you think about reaching gamers, obviously this kind of in-person engagement that you get on Twitch is really valuable. You're going to build a direct connection with your audience, but this is where people are going to discover your product long term because the content's going to live there, it's going to generate more views and more awareness. I don't think I have to explain how YouTube works, but I do want to explain the three kind of categories that you will be thinking about when you work with content creators and you want to reach an audience here. Now keep in mind that we avoided traditional ad buys across YouTube and across Twitch because ad block is a huge issue in this ecosystem. And you have questions about how ad block works, it's probably not the privy of this conversation, but we'll talk about it after. So on YouTube, you have integrated videos, dedicated videos, and stream highlights are your three. A stream highlight is the most obvious. You pay for some content on Twitch, you get that content on YouTube. They just cut it up and post it, usually at a heavily discounted rate. The dedicated videos and integrated videos are the two other categories. If anyone's ever seen any sponsored content on YouTube, you've probably seen someone promoting a new game that came out, brought to you by EA, brought to you by Activision. That would fall under your dedicated video. It's a piece of content, 5 to 10 minutes long, that basically covers a game or a product. And then integrated videos are one of the most popular categories right now. The reason for that is twofold. One, you get a lot more views on a piece of content that's authentic to a channel. And two, YouTube's algorithm more heavily weighs integrated content versus dedicated content. An integrated content piece is where they're incorporating like a 30 to 45 second endorsement of your product in a longer 10 to 15 minute video. So the content stays very regular to what's on the channel already, and the endorsement is kind of how they promote and support your product. Now, many people think about eSports, they actually think about the tournaments and live events. They think about these arenas that you spoke to previously that are full of people, 15,000, 20,000 people. The Fortnite arena sold out a 35,000 person arena for their World Cup. And what we do and what a lot of the agencies in the ecosystem do is they help you kind of sponsor these events. There's a lot of in-person traffic there, which really matters for a lot of products, where you actually want people to test out your product, even test their own reaction speed over a 3-4 hour, maybe day-long period that they're at a conference, learn and see that these products work. And that's why you might be interested in actually working with some of the larger tournaments and events in the ecosystem so that people can really test your product and see that it works for them. And then event reporting and actual stream analytics is a really big part of the ecosystem right now, and it's definitely the one that's most in flex. Most of you are probably familiar with Nielsen or Google AdWords as your reporting metric, but Twitch is a black box, and most live platforms are as well. Because Amazon owns them, you're not getting a lot of data, and that's why you have to rely on third-party services like Stream Hatchet to come in and help you guys find the data. Where is your audience based? How long are they engaging with your product? But most importantly, what's the organic chatter about your product after promotion? You're going to want to know how many times people are talking about Kale, for instance, after you've done a promotion across the entire platform. And analytics services like Stream Hatchet or my company, Adder, help with that because we're able to really drive and understand anytime someone's mentioning your product across the entire ecosystem on Twitch. We're talking millions of channels, millions of chat messages. So the last category that I want to talk about today, and one that a lot of people are curious about, is what is it like to sponsor an actual team? You can work with an event, you can work with a personality like Ninja, but what if you want to go behind a team? Maybe you're interested in Overwatch or Activision, or something you played, you played COD as a kid. Well, the solution here is you can sponsor teams. I personally would actually stay away from it. I think that teams are pretty expensive and they follow a very traditional model for sports where you're basically paying for brand recognition across the team, but it's really hard to track whether or not you're getting a direct sale. A lot of the esports teams right now are actually buying out traditional locale. If they're part of a league, they may even have a stadium that they have to fill. And you end up finding yourself in a more of a traditional sports environment where you're paying for banner advertising and general awareness and less immediate activations. Now, I want to finish up with a few of our clients, just so you guys know what we do. We've worked with many of the top brands in the ecosystem. We're pretty much known for bringing some of the biggest brands to the space. All of Disney, Hershey's, and Uniqlo are three of the biggest brands that we've brought to esports. A lot of these brands rely on companies like mine to leverage our industry knowledge and, of course, the relationships we have with talent to be able to reach an audience in a really authentic way. So that's a little bit about my company and about how you can market across the ecosystem. The purpose of today's presentation was to give you guys a very high-level look at what this content could look like on the platform. If you guys have specific questions on what a campaign could look like, talk to me after the presentation. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Justin, and thank you to all our presenters. I'd like to introduce our president of Kemin Human Nutrition and Health, Jose Piccolotto, and Jose is going to provide some closing remarks and a gift. So thank you all for your attention.
So creating too much expectation, the gift, yeah? So, well, thanks for everyone. Thanks for the speaker and also for the team to getting this organized. Well, as a reward for everyone to being focused and keeping paying attention, we have 30-day supply for Neumentix and FloraGLO Lutein at the end. So once you get out, our team will give you a bottle. I think Kemin has a very nice story to tell in terms of marketing. It's those Neumentix and the Lutein. We have a group of agronomists, we call the SCI group. So we grow the plant by our own. It's a verticalized, and we do the extraction. We help US farmers. Also, we help 40,000 farmers in India to grow the let's say 40,000 families in India that grow also the marigold. So it's a very nice story to tell to the customer. Customers are looking for natural, either organic, farm to table. So you can get in touch with our team to learn more. How can you leverage on that message? So thanks everyone for coming, and for sure you're gonna receive some call or some email from our team asking how was the 30-day trial on Neumentix and Lutein. Thank you.